Hello and welcome to another edition of Kylie Minogue, the Diminutive collection.
Every week, Kieran and me, Christy G, will revisit the pop boomerang's classic albums and relive some of her finer moments.
And in order to compile the most definitive Kylie collection yet, we will choose two of the best songs of each of her studio albums that make us feel Kylie Smiley.
And bin the dodgy ditties that are Kylie Minogue.
This week, we step back in time to October 1989 when Kylie released her eagerly anticipated sophomore album, Enjoy Yourself, and what an album that was. Absolutely incredible. I really think it's one of the best pop albums of all time. Christian, what do you think?
Well, obviously we already had her debut album, Kylie, and obviously we were lapping it up and loving every song, well, loving most songs on the album. So when there was talk of the second album, I remember being very excited, but then I thought to myself, what could we expect from it? It was at a time when Madonna had, a few months beforehand, maybe a year beforehand, released Like a Prayer, and that was an album that was very much, that pop princess had kind of come up with an album that was very critically acclaimed. And I think Kylie probably had, some big shoes to follow in a sense. I think she knew she had to kind of up the game slightly, but working with Stock Aitken Waterman, you kind of wondered what the album would sound like. Would it just sound like a run-of-the-mill Stock Aitken Waterman album, or would it offer some delicious gems?
1989 was a very busy time for her. I mean, just to give you some stats, well, we already know she left TV fame in Australia to focus on her music, so she was taking it very seriously, and she was really focusing on the sophomore album. Back at that time, she was also back in the homeland of Australia, nominated for 3 Logie Awards. Logie Awards, for those who don't know, is like a very prestigious TV award that started in the 1960s and was kind of named after a Scottish guy who helped invent TV, I think, and it just was adopted. And also that year she was nominated for the prestigious Gold Logie Award, and she ended up winning that, which is phenomenal. At this time also, she was encouraged by her then manager to start exploring some film roles in addition. So one of those roles was The Delinquents, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on this episode, but she signed on to play Lola Lovell, who in the book was an Asian character from Singapore. So more to come from that. And also in 1989, Madame Tussauds Museum would honour her with one of the very first of her wax figures, and they ended up making 4 of her at that time. So a very, very busy time. And I've got a bit of a special treat for you now, Christian, because I brought this all the way home, back from Australia to home in London. So when I was a little young kid, I was a member of the Kylie Minogue fan club, and I sent a letter, and she sent one back. And I think this just highlights perfectly about her transition from the beginning of 1989 and the year that she was planning ahead for this year. So the letter's like, "Hi, great to hear from you. Thanks a lot for your letter. I'm really busy again at the moment, having just recovered from my UK promotional trip with Jason Donovan just before Christmas. That was very hectic, squeezing in TV shows, radio and interviews to arrive home on Christmas morning. After Chrissy, I had a couple of weeks off. Since then, I got back to America to promote It's No Secret, and I'm about to head back to London again. From there, I'll visit Spain, France and Holland. Once I'm back in Australia, I'll be involved in pre-production for the movie I'm doing, The Delinquents, then back to London to work on my second album. As you can see, busy, and your mail has overwhelmed me so much that I've asked Diane to help me out with mail. So please write to Private Mail Bag 5, Albert Park, Victoria 3206. Thanks for your continued support, and I hope you enjoy what's coming up. Love and best wishes, Kylie Minogue."
Well, Kylie was busy, wasn't she? She was busy.
She was busy, and lovely Diane. And there's more from Diane later, because we'll still hear from her soon. But yeah, I thought that was really kind of nice little snapshot on what she was going through, and it's sort of a very busy time as well. So she
kicked off the year, hasn't she? So 89, of course, was the year she kicked off with the #1 single with Jason.
Yes.
It felt like it was a long time. 1989 was the year that Kylie really did kind of make her mark, and that's when she really did become this kind of superstar in the eyes of her fans. She was more than just a pop star. She had more than one hit. She managed to kind of like go from strength to strength at every release. And so obviously she started off at 89 with, especially for you, making it to #1. And so I guess there was a really big pressure on her to come back with an album that was going to be really, really good.
And I think she did. I think she achieved that with this album, because it's phenomenal. I think it's still in the same vein as the first one, but it kind of improved. And I think the lyrics and the songs are a little bit more mature, but still amazingly sounding pop songs. And
and the sounds too, the production was a lot different. But let's not jump the gun. Let's start off with the one that kind of like the teaser that came first.
Yes. So Hand on Your Heart.
Ooh,
Hand
lovely.
on Your Heart, which is one of my favorite, still to this very day, my
Mm.
favorite Kylie songs of all time. Do you remember when you first heard it? Where were you when you first heard this?
Well, before I first heard it, I remember, actually, I can't remember if this is before I heard it or before the video came out, but I remember there was an interview with Kylie in one of the teen magazines, and she said, I've just shot the video for one of my new single, and I think people are going to be shocked by it. Now, I wasn't sure what she meant by being shocked by it, but when I saw the video, when I saw those awful dresses, I was pretty shocked. But now, having said that, when I was a young 16-year-old boy, those dresses were lovely, and if I could have slipped into one, I'd have been quite happy. But when I first heard it, I've got a very good story about how I first heard it. I knew the song was
Okay.
coming up, and and this is why I was 16, 17 maybe, and I was at a house party. I was with some friends. We were lying. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd all gone to bed upstairs in a room. I was lying on the floor. My friend Sarah was up on a bed sleeping. Next to me, there was a girl called Fiona I used to go to school with, and she was with her boyfriend at the time. And in these days, none of us had any significant others. So this girl having a boyfriend was quite a big thing. Anyway, we were snoozing, drifting off to sleep. And all of a sudden, I could hear this kind of strange noise just behind me. I thought, what the hell's going on? Then I turned around, and all I could see was the rise and fall of a pair of buttocks lit by the moonlight as this chap was performing a sex act on my friend Fiona. So anyway, Sarah and I both burst into laughter, and because we didn't want to interrupt his stride, we decided to go downstairs to the sitting room. So we turned on the TV, and it was about this is about 3 o'clock in the morning by now, and the Hitman and Her was on television. And just as I turned on the television, Pete Waterman announced they were playing the 12-inch version of Kylie's new single, Yay Water Nicks. And so it kicked into action, and it obviously, as we all know, it's got that kind of very long introduction, and it's got that bit with you can hear the strings and that kind of string backing track. And I remember in my jaded and shocked state at that time, I was mesmerized. I think I started crying because the song sounded so good when I heard it. This kind of string quartet type thing in the background, like an orchestra. It just sounded like the most magnificent thing I'd ever heard. And I thought, my God, if this is Kylie's new song, then I am going to be the happiest boy in the world.
Amazing.
And bear in mind, at this point, I was still straight.
I mean, my recollection didn't involve thrusting bare buttocks, but I remember I was 9 years old, heading into town, and we had a TV show in
9 years
Australia.
old. 9 years old and writhing buttocks. That would have been social services.
We had a TV show in Australia called Rage, which was this kind of like TV film clip show every morning on a Saturday where they'd play all the latest hits and they'd do the countdown, all the video hits. And we were heading into town one day, and I was in the car ready to go with all my family, and my sister called me out, said, Kieran, quick, Kylie's got a new song. And I came in and caught half of Hand on Your Heart, and it was stuck in my head all day. And I just couldn't wait to then head to the record shop to actually get the sticker single when it first came out. Again, in typical PWL mushroom style in Australia, there was different cover arts for the Australian release and the UK release. So with the Australian release, again, Pete Waterman must have got his way because she's wearing a hat, a lovely embroidered hat with flowers on it, and the back is...
Was that image used on another release? I'm sure I've seen that picture.
It could have been. I've got the 7 inches here, having a look, but it's not there. But it might have been on like a US or something.
I mean, was it used for another song somewhere? Because it just looked like a familiar image.
Yeah.
Was it used on the annual? No, it wasn't.
It could have been. It could have done. And the back is just a still of one of the clips of her in the blue dress with the red heart. But you guys in the UK had her as a still from the It's No Secret video. On the back,
yes,
on the front cover.
Which we hadn't seen. So for us, that was a stunning new image, and we loved it because she was casual. She'd taken the hat off her head this time, and she was holding it. So there was a development in her relationship with hats, which was quite nice to see. She finally removed the hat.
She had a bit of creative control over that one in the UK. The single was released in April, both in the UK and in Australia, around the same time that she started rehearsing for The Delinquents, which is a little fun fact. And the video was shot in Melbourne. Again, was directed by Chris Langman, who basically did all her videos before. And Kylie has said that this is one of the least favorite of her career. And I think I can kind of tell if you look at the video now and you know that information, she looks kind of pissed off at some parts of the video. And I don't know whether this is folklore, but did you hear that apparently some of the dancers were supposed to fly over to be in the video, but their flight got delayed or they got cancelled or something, and she had to do it by herself? I remember reading something. I'm not quite sure if that's true, but that could have, attributed to her being pissed off.
Well, it's a funny video, isn't it? Because it's kind of Kylie walking around with this kind of 40s hairdo, wearing these kind of loose dresses that were all the same style, but in different colours, but with a heart. And she's just kind of like walking around and leaning against red and yellow pillars and looking in mirrors and reflecting. And I mean, it wasn't, I mean, when she said in that interview previously that we were going to be shocked by her video, I was kind of expecting her to take a leaf out of Madonna's book and kind of like roll around on the floor and, you know, touch herself. But it was quite a tame video, but it was almost like a step back kind of video, because it didn't really tell a story. There's no story. It was kind of like a very unusual video clip that didn't seem to really say anything. It was odd.
Yeah. And they've improved their special effects budget as well, because the heart looked decent at that time, but still looks dated now, but looked at that time quite good. And
Yeah,
quite
my favourite moment is when she kind of blows the heart off her shoulder. Oh, it was an amazing moment in that video.
So that song went to number 1 in the UK and only number 4 in Australia. And also, can we please talk about the flip side of Hand on Your Heart? Just Want to Love You.
Give me a little burst of it.
Every minute of the hour, every morning, noon and night.
No, nice. No, this is where we
it could have been my rendition of it, though, right?
No. I remember the time, because I remember when the single came out. I went and bought my 12-inch from Woolworths, and I think I bought it. I think I got it in all formats because I was such a Kylie fan. I would buy everything in 12-inch. I'd buy the 7-inch, and I'd buy the single if there was one available. And I remember.
Do you still have all those? Do you still have all of those?
I've got all my Kylie and Jason ones. That's what I've kept over the years. So I've got 30-year-old vinyls that just kind of gathering dust on the cupboard. But they're things that are important to me because they were the things that I loved the most at that point in my life. But when I took the record home and I saw that there was a new song on the B-side that wasn't some kind of rip-off from or some leftover from the first album or some kind of rehash of the first album, I thought, I can't wait to listen to this, thinking it's going to be as sensational as Hand on Your Heart. And so then I put it on and I thought, oh no, it had that kind of like American funk sound that sounded a bit like I Miss You and Look My Way on the previous album.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt like it was a bit like a leftover from that album, which it probably was. I remember I wasn't quite as excited by that, and that kind of made me think, oh my God, I hope this doesn't mean that she's going down an American kind of funk route, because obviously she mentioned before that she, tried to make it in America with It's No Secret. But now with 47-Year-Old Is, it's actually quite a good song. And I mean, it's a song I wouldn't necessarily choose to play to, get me in the party mood, but it's certainly a song that actually was quite mature for Stockton. It wasn't mature for Kylie. It was a different sound. And once you hear it, you don't forget it. So it's very catchy. It's very, it's got that kind of groove to it that you just kind of get carried away, and you just end up loving it.
I would like to hear a version of it, of Abbey Road Sessions version of that song, quite slowed down, quite kind of. I reckon that'll be quite nice. Should we move on from Hand on Your Heart and go to the next single?
Yes, by all means. Yes.
Which is.
I wouldn't change. Oh.
Again, 2 different, very different cover arts, basically, cover artwork in Australia and the UK. Can we just talk about the UK version, which I think is one of the worst she's ever looked on an album cover? And at the back, she's wearing like washing up gloves, which are yellow washing up gloves.
She was probably predicting coronavirus. She was making sure her hands were clear of any kind of bacteria or kind of virus.
And her hair's really high, like hike that up to Jesus. Look at that, that's really, really high.
I'm not sure, actually, hold it up again, because we need to describe this to people. So it's got a beige kind of, beige like border. Kylie's in the middle wearing a green see-through
blouse
with a kind of like a boob tube underneath it. Her hair's teased into oblivion. It's kind of like the fringe is curled, it kind of swept back off her head. The hair looks a bit wispy around the sides, as if she's never heard of frizzy. And then you've got the name of the single, Wouldn't Change a Thing, in these kind of strips.
Yes.
And it looks like somebody doing GCSE media studies had been asked, can you design a cover in 3.5 seconds and see what you can come up with? And that's it. It was a very poor man's job. It was, whoever designed that, hopefully they haven't got a job now.
And the back is just the worst with the gloves. I mean, how did that come about? They were all sitting around in a circle saying, look, what's missing on the back? I know, a yellow marigold. And she should be saying, and also she's telling people, look, she's like, it's a secret.
Finger, like, that should have been It's No Secret.
But then look at the joy and wonder that is the Australian edition of Wouldn't Change a Thing. Much more high class. I think she's like wearing like a flapper girl pearl, Madonna-esque, bullets over Broadway.
She's got more pearl necklaces around her neck than I've ever seen on anyone. And are they gay?
And the back is really, it's amazing. It's much better than those dishpan washed hands that she's got in the back.
It's weird that the decisions for both countries were so different, because just looking at that UK version. It's such a weird cover. It's just so lazy and so basic and awful. I mean, I can't imagine why the stylist would think, well, let's put in this green thing. I can't imagine why the hairstylist, was it Lino? I don't know. Was it Lino at the time? But why would he think, well, that hair looks good, because it doesn't. And then you look at the Australian one and you think, well, look, there's a little bit of effort that's gone into it. There's good styling. She looks good. The image is lively.
Yeah.
Because Kylie looks a little bit like Mona Lisa in the UK version.
I mean, Lawrence Lowry is the photographer on the Wouldn't Change a Thing shoot, and yeah, bless him. Wonder if he's still working. But
he
also,
might have been one of the first blind photographers. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let us know. But also, the B-side is, again, it's no secret. Stop trying to make It's No Secret a thing on the B-side of both the UK and the Australian editions.
You see, I don't have it right in front of me, but that's probably why she is holding her marigolds and holding her finger up to her lips, because she is telling us to keep it secret. That's probably why. I forgot that old clunker was on the back.
Maybe it was going to be another double A side, but then they decided against it and still used the still. So again, I wouldn't change the thing I really quite liked. It's much clubbier. I think, and it retained the I should be so lucky.
It had that funky drummer opening, didn't it? Which is a sample from a James Brown song, isn't it? I can't recreate the sound, but yeah, when you hear the opening section of the kind of drum beat, it was being used in lots of dance songs at that point, and it sounded very, very cool. And then it sounded cool for the first 3 or 4 seconds, and then the I wouldn't Stockhagen Waterman stuttering vocal came in, but having said that, it's classic, and it's very, very Stockhagen Waterman. It's very Kylie, it's very Sonia, very Jason Donovan, very all of them. Yeah, once it kicks in, it's got this kind of slow lumbering feel to it, hasn't it? It kind of, but it's really infectious, and you just kind of get swept along in this kind of. It's wonderful. I remember hearing it for the first time, thinking, this is. Oh, it's completely different to Hand on Your Heart, which initially I thought, oh, damn, it's not as adventurous in the sense that it didn't have all that kind of da, 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 which I loved. Mm-hmm. But then when I heard it properly, I remember hearing it on Capital Radio for the first time, and they played it, and I thought, oh, I was surprised by the opening, and then it led into the verses, da, 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 and I thought, oh, the tune's really good. And then I just loved it. I just fell in love with the song straight away. I was amazed by it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this song. And just a little bit of facts for you. The song was the 3rd Kylie track to debut at number 2 in the UK. However, it didn't reach number 1 because Jive Bunny ended up taking that spot.
Damn that bunny.
Damn that bunny. The video was the first one shot in Britain and was directed by Pete Cornish. So Chris did not get hired, but maybe because he couldn't travel from Australia.
So she hadn't moved over here at this point, had she? Because she was still making the film in Australia, so was she more based here?
I think she's more based here, I think. And
she's making her move over here, wasn't she?
Yes.
Obviously her success was a lot better over here. But yeah, I remember the video. It was debuted on the Ozone, which was a music show that Andy Crane presents, and he had her in the studio one day to talk about the release. And they showed a clip of the video, and he got very excited. Said, "Oh, it looks like you've done it in your back garden." And she obviously didn't know where she'd shot it, because she said, "Oh, I'm not quite sure if it's someone's back garden. I think it was a park." Oh no, I think she may have said it was in someone's back garden, and he thought it was in a park. Whatever it was, she's running around as if somebody's filming her, like the film Peeping Tom, and she's just kind of like running away from the chap who's behind the camera. And then she's rolling around on a chair, and she's having a gay old time in the summer of London. But when she appeared on the Ozone, she was asked about what we could expect from the upcoming album, and I remember she was saying that that it was going to be a lot different to what we'd been used to, and that she would. There was a song that was going to be called Heaven and Earth. That was an environmental song. An environmental song, she said.
Yeah, I've got something on that soon.
Yeah, because then she also said, I've got a feeling that the album may be called Heaven and Earth. But it was quite clear she wasn't happy about that. So clearly she got her way in the end.
So I think this is definitely Kylie Smiley, right?
Oh, God. Good grief. The singles that came off this album, bar one, and we'll come to that later on because I hate it, it was almost the first, people always talk about Better Than Ever You Know and Step Back in Time, What Do I Have to Do, and Shocked as the 4 gems. But this album had the potential to have those 4 equally fabulous, a fabulous quartet of songs. This album had so many to choose from, bar one massive clunker. But anyway, carry on.
So that single was released, and then we're going to move on to another kind of key moment in Kylie's career, her very first tour, Disco in Dreams, Kylie on the Go, the VHS. Kylie was crowned Japan's favorite pop star in 1989. She had 5 singles in the Japanese charts, and it was a no-brainer basically to head to Japan to promote, do a set of promotional concerts. So they had 2 weeks to put a show together. They flew to Japan with Carol in tow in September '89. The show was dubbed by the Japanese press as the biggest disco in history, and also featured Sanita and Dead or Alive on the bill in Japan. And that this whole concert was cut down to be released on VHS in a 56-minute VHS called Kylie on the Go. Have you seen that recently, Christian?
I haven't, because I live in 2020 and I don't have a VHS player anymore. But
you can check it on YouTube though,
I know,
right?
it's online. It's online. No, because I remember at the time, as much as a Kylie fan as I was, it was one of the most awfully produced shows I've ever seen in my entire life. But I mean, I loved watching her. I was obsessed with her wearing those lovely kind of sequin bustiers on the shorts. I just thought they were so colourful and she looked like a superhero. And I loved watching her do that. So, except when she was in Japan, the shorts were too long on the leg, which always bugged me. They should have been a little bit kind of like a little bit more cropped. A little bit too long for my liking. They're a little bit like 3/4 length. Yeah, I remember the show, and she sang all the thing that irritated me most, because at that point in time, everyone used to tease me for liking Kylie because they said she couldn't sing, and I was hoping that when you watch this, you would hear that she was a brilliant singer. But obviously, they kind of dubbed the recorded version over
her natural
vocals,
singing voice. Yeah,
that didn't help me. It didn't help my case when I was trying to kind of fight for Kylie and saying how great she was as a singer. But that said, we had some kind of 12-inch versions. We had some different versions of the songs. And
yeah, pretty much all the songs were presented in their 12-inch version mixes on that tour.
And and even Hand on Your Heart had a different vocal for the Hand on Your Heart, which I assume was just Mike Stock without having his voice treated. But it was a great show, so that we could see what we were missing in Japan. But there were some terrible bits in it, like her making sushi and all that kind of.
Yeah, and she does go woohoo like a lot during her performance, and come on, like she starts screaming a lot at the audience, which she's learned not to do.
I guess that's when she knows that she's not going to hit the note. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Like H with the woo woo.
When you mentioned those outfits, some of them still exist. Because did you ever see the Kylie exhibition at the Victorian Albert Museum?
Yeah, yes, I loved it.
Yeah. So some of those Disco and Dreams outfits were actually still on display, so she still had them.
Yeah, they were iconic because she looked amazing, and it was that. I mean, no one else. I mean, I guess that was kind of early '90s. I know we weren't into the '90s at that point, but that period of time, I think fashion was, people were wearing a lot of stuff like that. It was very much for me. It was very much a Kylie look, and I loved all the kind of like bright, colourful sequins and. Was it red and blue on the Japan tour, or was it red and yellow? I can't remember. She wore a gold one at some point, but it was 30 years ago. I have no memory. Who knows what she was wearing?
Who knows what I did yesterday? All right, I think it's time to hear from Di again, because I've got another letter from Di from the fan club. Di's good. She's like, "Hi, it's Di here. Welcome to our second newsletter. Thanks for all your fab letters. We really love to hear from you. Kylie's new album, Enjoy Yourself, is being released in mid-October to late October. It contains tracks including the singles Hand on Your Heart and Wouldn't Change a Thing, and an environmental song entitled Heaven and Earth. and a fantastic cover of the Little Anthony and Imperials hit of the 50s, Tears on My Pillow. The single to follow, Wouldn't Change a Thing, is still a secret, but we'll let you know as soon as we can. The Delinquents will be released in December, a week or two before Christmas, with the world premiere in Sydney. Unfortunately, David Bowie had to cancel doing the movie soundtrack because of his commitments to his new album and the Tin Machine tour. He has seen excerpts of the film and is very impressed with what he saw. Kylie let me hear samples of the song she sings in The Delinquents, and believe me, it's as good, if not better than anything she's ever done before. Warner Brothers, distributors of Batman, are also distributing The Delinquents, so Kylie is poised for international acclaim as a movie actress. Christmas sees Kylie home for a short but well-earned break with her family and friends, before having to embark on yet another worldwide promotional tour, this time for the movie. In our next newsletter, we will tell you how you can win an original test-pressed record of Wouldn't Change a Thing, autographed especially for you by Kylie, an extremely rare and valuable item available to only fan club members. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Di.
Oh. Di really earned her money, didn't she? She earned her money. She was full of it. She's revved me up, that's for sure. International movie star. I love that.
So, the next single obviously is Never Too Late, but also came out around the same time as the Enjoy Yourself album. So should we talk about Never Too Late first and then the album itself?
Yes, let's do that. Because the great thing about the old days, if anyone young is listening to this, in the old days, instead of just releasing an album straight away with the first single, 2 or 3 singles out before the album came. So you had these great teasers, so that when you wanted to go and buy the album, you think, you kind of thought, well, if they sound like this, if all the songs sound like this and sound as good as that, then I'm going to get the album. So obviously we've been booked into a disco frenzy by Hand on Your Heart, and then we were clubbering our asses off to Wouldn't Change a Thing. I couldn't wait to find out what the third single was. And when I heard it, by Jiminy, I wasn't disappointed. I loved it. Actually, this turned out, I think this is almost, in some ways, my favorite of the three singles, because there's something about it that is just, it's kind of melancholy and yet high energy at the same time. And I absolutely love it.
I think the video clip for me is also one of those outstanding moments where it was
Oh,
something different. She played those different characters and different vignettes. And again, special effects were very, very, for its time, very, very cool. Looks a bit dated now, but still a really great effort. This, when going from Hand on Your Heart to this, it's 5 months. So April to October is 5 months. So again, that whole lead up is building.
She probably recorded the album. Oh, she didn't. She recorded the album in 2 weeks, didn't she? So all the songs were in my bag at the time, weren't they?
I mean, again, the look of this single is pretty amazing. Her in the cowgirl outfit, way before Madonna did it. Really, really quite cool and very, classy and looks great. Looks really good.
Yeah, so on the cover, she's got the hats are back.
The hat is back.
She's wearing a cowboy hat this time. She's wearing like a halter neck bustier, and she's using her fingers pointing her fingers like a gun. So she's quite sassy on the cover. She looks a little bit, she still looks like an innocent girl next door, but she looks a lot sassier than her neighbours there. And I think
she looks hot.
Her hair's in pigtails, so we don't have any wild curls anymore. And she looks amazing.
Or rubber gloves.
Rubber gloves. The image of the cowboy comes from the video, because in the video she's playing various characters in the video, isn't she? There's scenes where she's a cowgirl with two of her hunky dancers.
A flapper dresser, like the 20s Charleston dresser, yeah. The video was actually directed by Pete Cornish, the guy that did Wouldn't Change a Thing video. And it did very well in the UK. It got to number 4 in the UK, however, only number 14 in Australia.
Oh.
So I think at this time, Australia was experiencing Kylie fatigue.
This was the first time in the UK that a song hadn't peaked at number 2, because up until this point, she'd always had top 2 hits. So this was her first song that didn't do that. But having said that, I remember reading in Smash Hits magazine, and they were doing an album track by track. And when it came to Never Too Late, they said they gave it 5 out of 10, and I was furious. And they said this song has more of a lilting sound, more of a Jason Donovan lilting sound, and belongs more on his album than hers. And I remember sitting there thinking, you don't know what you're talking about, Smash Hits. And I was furious. It's one of the best songs she's ever released.
And also, the frontman of INXS, Michael Hutchins, was with you, Christian, because that was apparently his. It was basically his favourite song as well.
Ah, really?
Apparently.
He must be trying to help her get a hit with it, because I can't imagine him sitting there going, after he'd been sweating off the stage, trying things to doors, and then coming home and putting on Never Too Late.
Never Too Late, dancing around his hotel rooms.
If he had been, he probably would have been still with us now. But
apparently, this wasn't the first choice for a single, though. It was the environmental song entitled "Heaven and Earth" that was going to be. Oh, sorry, "Enjoy Yourself." It was supposed to be the next single instead of "Never Too Late," but PWL were like, we can't release a single called "Enjoy Yourself" and have the album because there might be some confusion in the market. So they went with "Never Too Late."
Well, you know what 12-year-olds are like? They can't think for themselves, which is nonsense, of course, because they can. That's by the by. Confusion, how silly.
So at the same time, the "Enjoy Yourself" album came out, which is, its packaging's great. She's wearing a gold hat yet again. A gold sequin hat. Yeah. But Christian, talk to me about why the track listings at the back are all in the wrong order. So you've got Wouldn't Change a Thing as the first song, but Hand on Your Heart is the first song on the album. Because I think they had a bit of an issue when they changed their minds last minute, didn't they, on which single to release first?
Well, you know what, your guess is as good as mine. I know nothing, because remember, I'm way older than you are, and I have no memory of anything. I've lived a party lifestyle. I don't remember these things. I'm assuming that they were they were chopping and changing. Although, in fairness, I don't think it's not like there's a build to the songs on the album. They're not kind of like these.
It doesn't tell a story or anything like that.
Yeah, they're not telling. It's not an artistic album. It's a pop album. The order remind us on the album what the first 5 songs.
The first 5 songs is Hand on Your Heart, Wouldn't Change a Thing, Never Too Late, Nothing to Lose, and Telltale Signs. However, on the LP, which is the original LP, you've got Wouldn't Change a Thing, Hand on Your Heart, Enjoy Yourself, Telltale Signs, and Tears on My Pillow.
Oh God! Now I can see why they changed it last minute, and obviously it was so last minute that they couldn't change the print run. The way it has been worked out that we're all used to obviously all the songs were kind of, the first four songs all have that kind of upbeat pop sound. So anyone who's bought the album because they love the first three singles, when they hear Nothing to Lose, which we'll come on to again because that's another sensation,
Oh,
they'll
yes.
be satisfied with the sound of that. And then before you get to the B-side, where there are a few different sounds, because the B-side is completely different to the A-side. The A-side is very Stock Aitken Waterman, it's very Kylie Minogue. But then the B-side is a lot more kind of very like a prayer. So I think the Telltale Signs that kind of ends the first side is a bit of a teaser about what we're going to find on the flip side.
So should we go to Nothing to Lose?
Let's, because I'm on the edge of my seat.
This should have been a single. This is a cracker of a tune.
But I remember listening to
Cracker.
Capital Radio on a Sunday night one night, and Pat Sharp saying, I'm going to play a song now. It's supposed to be the next single by Kylie, and it was Nothing to Lose. When I played the album for the first time, I bought it in WH Smith's, and this was my first CD album that I bought, proper CD album, because I never had one. I bought Kylie afterwards. I bought the cassette version first. So this is my very first genuinely CD album. And I remember going home, putting it on my little Discman because I didn't have a proper stereo. And I remember going through the first three songs. It sounded joyous in my ears. And then I got Nothing to Lose. Oh, honestly, I actually, again, I had the same reaction I had to Hand on Your Heart. I cried because it was so good. There was so many elements to it I loved. I love the kind of groove, the groovy kind of like almost clubby verses. And then in the bridge that goes to the chorus, you've got this kind of, I can't sing it, but there's a little string bit in behind the vocal that's kind of very kind of sad and lilting. And I absolutely loved it.
It is one of the catchiest choruses, I think, on this album as well. It's just with the claps.
Yeah. That's my moment there. Gotta make a move. Yeah, it's a joyous. It was. And it was a crime that song didn't get released as a single. Because
I would love for her to do this on a tour. Yeah, she did it in the anti-tour, didn't she?
I had a drink in my hand that night. Who knows?
I was hammered as well, so
I know she sang Enjoy Yourself that night. God, we're terrible. I'm a terrible fan, but I'm a great fan because I love Kylie, and I lose myself in Kylie that I can't remember certain details.
I'm sure people will let us know anyway on our Instagram channel. The next one on the...
By the way, if people do want to get in touch, Kieran, if people want to drop us a line, what should they do? Drop
us a line at the Kylie Smiley podcast at gmail.com. That is the Kylie Smiley podcast at gmail.com. So yeah, just drop us a line, say hello, and remember, be kind, because we probably missed a lot of stuff, and we're just two fans having a chat. So be kind and
if there is any hate mail, can you at least put the subject hate mail so we know which one to sift through first?
Let's move on to Telltale Signs, which is one of my sister never really liked Stock Aitken Waterman kind of music. She was more kind of UB40, but she loved Telltale Signs, and it's still one of her favorite songs. It's a beautiful, beautiful ballad, much better than the other ballad that is on this album, but a very, very beautiful. Even the lyrics are quite lovely. I think it's one of the achievements of Stock Aitken and Waterman.
I think it is absolutely. I remember hearing it. It was stunning. I remember hearing it and thinking, my God, just the opening was clear that it wasn't like a pop song, a pop disco song. And I remember hearing it and thinking, oh my God, this is very classy. I'm listening to jazz, for goodness sake. I love it. How posh.
How cultural of you.
And I remember thinking to myself, I can't believe this is by Stock Aitken Waterman. It was such a departure for them. I don't think they've done anything quite like that. So I think when they came to making this album, they really enjoyed doing it because they were really given a chance to really explore their sounds and change their production and try new things. I think they really saw in Kylie a potential rival to Madonna, who was still, Madonna was at her peak at this point. I think they really thought that they could really move her or mold her and move her in that direction. And I just remember that song was just stunk of glamour and style and sophistication. And and her voice sounds amazing on it too. It sounds absolutely beautiful.
She only ever recorded, did a live performance of this very rarely at the on TV in Australia on Hey Hey It's Saturday, which was a popular Saturday sort of evening TV show that we all used to watch as kids with a puppet ostrich and a host. And she actually sang this, and she was phenomenal. And I loved it. I remember actually watching it, and I thought this was a great, great choice to do live. It really showed her vocals, which obviously the tour in Japan helped because her vocals were great live, and she did sing live, which was fantastic. So this is a Kylie Smiley for me. Definitely this one.
Well, as we know, her voice suits that kind of song brilliantly, because when she's gone very acoustic or when she's gone very kind of low key, her voice excels. You listen to that lovely song, If You Don't Love Me, the B-side to Confide in Me. That's a beautiful song. When she does I Should Be So Lucky as a piano ballad, her voice really works because it really gets to stretch herself, and I think she always sounds amazing when she does low key.
The next song, My Secret Heart, is probably my second least favorite on this. It reverts back to it's more child sounding like, especially maybe because of the lyrics. I look at your picture and stare into space. I don't know if that's a mature song for her. I think it could be a little bit too young for her.
Oh, Kieran, I'm very disappointed in you. See, right, so let's go through this again. So obviously the first 4 songs I loved. I was in a disco frenzy. Telltale Signs brought me down to a very sophisticated level. If I smoked, I would have been smoking a cigar by that point. But when I heard the next song, I thought to myself, what? I loved Like a Prayer. I loved the song Dear Jessie. This, for me, was her Dear Jessie song because it had all the kind of weird little kind of Beatlesy type sounds, which obviously Madonna had paid homage to. And I liked the lyrics because I thought this was a song for the fans. I thought we could all embrace the song and think, you know, we all look at her picture and stare into space. And I thought that song was a fan song, and I loved it for that. And I didn't see it as really her singing it. I thought she was creating an anthem that was kind of dressed up in this, again, another amazing Stargate Immortal production that sounded unlike anything they've ever done in their entire career. And it just sounded absolutely amazing. It always has a very special place in my heart. I do think it is a fan song that she was almost speaking for us.
So it's a smiley for you?
Super smiling. In fact, the smile's so large, my head's going to blow off.
Well, this is a skipper for me, so it's a no-no for me. But sure. The next one, I'm over dreaming over you. Oh my God. Although let's not forget that wasn't on this version of. No, it wasn't.
This version was a lot more. This was a great song.
Oh my God. Just hearing this live in one of those nights, I think it was, when was it? One of the Kylie nights that we went to, and they played this live and everyone started screaming. It was just euphoric. Hearing this live on a dance floor with people jumping around, just feeling sheer and utter joy was phenomenal.
It's got a very strong melody. It's not as sophisticated as the single, but it's got a real, it's got a melody that is like a tsunami. It just literally sweeps you away. And you know you're singing it within seconds of hearing it for the first time. And you can always predict how the song will go anyway. But it's joyous and it's so upbeat. It's almost like a carnival in your head. It's like this crazy, you can almost imagine that terrible celebration song, the video for it, where she's on the beach. That's what's going on in my head when I listen to Over Dreaming Over You. I love it. It's such a great song.
Incredible. So before we go on to track number 8, should we talk about The Delinquents? Because this leads into track number 8, your favourite.
Yeah.
So The Delinquents. I'll read the back of the VHS cassette to give you everyone a bit of an idea on what this is about, in case you haven't seen it. It's like, some rules are meant to be broken. She defiantly fought for the right to love in a changing world that didn't seem to care. When she fell for Brownie Hanson, her mother called her a juvenile delinquent. Their parents, the Australian authorities, everyone thought they were too young to cope with adult responsibility. But together, they discovered life, rock and roll, and desire. With all their lives, they were told they mustn't, they shouldn't, they can't. But in 1957, they did. Pop sensation Kylie Minogue breaks all the rules as Lola Lovell in The Delinquents, a celebration of true romance. So
The Delinquents, sexy, by the way.
It must be the red wine.
I know. I'm just slightly touching myself. I love the
this book was written, I don't know, by Karina Rowan, who was actually Pat Cash, the tennis player, his auntie, and was published years and years ago. And as I said in the beginning, the character of Lola Lovell in the book is actually from Singapore, and Brownie Hanson is Australian, but they cast this Charlie Slater character to appeal to the US audience. And we also have to thank this film for one of the greatest character names ever in the history of cinema, and that is Sharon Faline. God, I love that name. It opened in December 1989 in the UK and Australia, and Kylie said at the time, if people hate it and think it's a flop, well, that's all there is to it. But I have to believe in myself and not listen to what other people say. David Bowie was originally supposed to be the executive producer, as Di mentioned in the email he had to pull out. The budget was $8.5 million, and they cast that Charlie Slater dude to appeal to the American audience, where Kylie was trying to break. And it was also the first time Kylie bared her breasts on screen. It was released on the 21st of December in Australia, in the UK, and in Boxing Day in the UK, and ended up the #1 movie of the Christmas period. Do you
Was it
remember?
the only film out at that time? Was it the only film that came out at that point?
No, there was Back to the Future 2 out, and The Delinquents topped Back to the Future 2, knocked Back to the Future 2 off the box office. So
I do.
Delinquents
Oh,
was
I
number
can.
one.
Well, I mean, Kylie was she was at her height at this point, so I can understand that. We were all wanting to see. I mean, to be honest, when I remember described it beautifully in your kind of when you were doing a little trail there with your sexy voice. I remember thinking, oh, I can't wait to see this film. Anything that Kylie did would turn to gold. I loved all her music. I loved Neighbours. Everything she did, I loved. So I had great expectations for this film, and they showed the trailer, and it was a little bit saucy. So it had that little bit where she says something about, I like you when he's just about to, and then you think she's going to say something really naughty. We're going to hear Kylie say that word, come. But we, so I had great expectations for this. And of course, the minute it came out, I went to see it. But
Did you see it in the cinema?
I saw it in the cinema. I was old enough to go to see it in the
Wow.
cinema. I had no idea
I
I went.
saw it on home video. I didn't see it at the cinema.
No, I went to see it in the cinema. And it was busy. I remember going, I vaguely remember it, but I remember going to the cinema and there were lots of people there. Because I think we all, obviously it's between Christmas, so no one was doing it. But I remember going along, I must have gone with friends because I was 17, I wouldn't have gone with parents. But I remember just coming away from, I do remember going, I went to see it in Leicester Square, and it was in the very big screening and
Odeon?
Screening room. I can't remember which one. No, I think it was maybe the Empire, what used to be the Empire.
Yeah.
I remember watching it. I just remember. I remember leaving, not feeling particularly fulfilled by it because it felt very cold to me, and
It's quite depressing. It's actually quite a depressing story. It was I remember watching this as a 10-year-old and not understanding the whole abortion and not understanding all the undertones that now as an adult watching it. I was just a kid, oh my God, there's Kylie Minogue and there's her breast assistance. I still really quite like the film. I watch it every now and then. I have it on VHS, DVD, and also on iTunes. Yeah, they never released it on Laserdisc though. They should have.
You see, this is the thing. I think as a 17-year-old, you'd have that as well if they had. As a 17-year-old, I had expectations. I was a little bit kind of Kylie Blinkered. Oh, not Kylie Flinker. Kylie Blinkered. Kylie Flinker. Kylie Flinker was Lucy, wasn't she? The original Lucy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Flinker. He used to speak through her nose. He used to speak through her nose all the time.
Like stop it. Now you're talking about potentially every other Australian, because we all do that, don't we?
I know, but she always sounded like she needed to blow her nose, but she never did. And she became, Sasha Close. Then she became Sasha Close, and then she became Melissa Bell. She really did improve with age and recasting. And so I was Kylie Blinkered at the time because everything she did, I wanted to love. So I'd gone into this film expecting it to be a bit like a John Hughes film, right? It would be like laugh a minute, kind of a teen film that's kind of, kind of fun story that we could all relate to. And then it turned out to be, as you say, a very, very dark, kind of quite depressing, quite gritty film. So I think I hadn't expected it to be like that. So I immediately resisted it slightly and came away thinking I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. That said, and I will actually view it again, maybe now at 47, because I'm thinking I might probably appreciate the story now, because it's obviously something it wasn't just a throwaway chewing gum film. It was something that had a bit of a serious storyline to it. So maybe now it might be worth having a look.
She also has some very strong scenes as an actress in there, especially the scenes with Angela Punch McGregor, who played Auntie, when she confronted her after throwing Brownie's mail away. She's actually a very good actress in this.
No, I would say that this film, actually, I think Dyer was right. In some ways, this film really kind of set her out there as a really good actress. She wasn't, I mean, I didn't like the film, but I thought that she played the role of Lola brilliantly, and I thought she was completely different to Charlene. It was a deeper interpretation of a character. It didn't seem superficial. It sounded, she was up there with some of the best actors out there. And I think she was very, very good at what she did. But as I said, it was just, I think it was an age thing, and I think maybe I resisted enjoying the film as much as I wanted to, because it wasn't what I expected Kylie to do, because she was disco Kylie in pop world, but she was gritty Meryl Streep in the film world.
Yeah.
Just like Meryl Streep.
She said in an interview, I was expecting to get a lot of criticism as usual, but I am an easy target. But I think it was good for my first movie, an Australian movie, and in England it beat Back to the Future 2, so there's something. If you've not seen it, kids, check it out. Quite good. And which leads us to the song that was featured on the Delinquent soundtrack that ended up, so David Bowie didn't do it, but Stock Aitken and Waterman did, the Delinquent soundtrack, and that is Tears on My Pillow, which happens to be the shortest song of Kylie's career at 2 minutes and 19 seconds.
Oh.
Created for the soundtrack because I think she was obsessed with Grease, and that this song appeared in the Grease soundtrack. And she's, we've read interviews and heard her stories of the love of Olivia Newton-John and Grease.
Mm.
This is not my favorite song on the album. I did buy the single, which was the still of her in 50s outfits from the video. But the B-side, We Know the Meaning of Love, is a great tune.
Mm-mm. No, you see, when I heard that she was doing Tears on My Pillow, I mean, I didn't really know what it was. I hadn't been, even though I'd seen Grease, it's in the background, so you don't really hear it. And I remember being so disappointed to hear it, because I just thought, oh, you've had this great run of singles, and then all of a sudden you're doing this kind of, I didn't even think the production was very good. The string sounds just sounded like it was out of a computer. And I mean, it's a nice song, I like it. And actually, again, with time, I appreciate it more. And I love the 12-inch version where you got the string bit where
that's nice.
Got I love all that. I just remember being disappointed because it wasn't as good as all the other songs. And I think I had my heart set on Nothing to Lose as well. So I was a bit disappointed. But as you said, the video, I thought the video was terrible. The video was just so cheap. I mean, it was obviously an advert for the film. And it was just her sitting in front of a blue screen while they showed clips from the film in the background on a reel. And also, if you look at the cover art, I mean, whoever came up with the idea of writing Tears on My Pillow in that kind of topsy-turvy fashion, I have no idea. It's just like, it's madness. Who are they employing these days? Did they have a committee of 12-year-olds? I have no idea. It's like a child designed it. So
and also,
I was disappointed by that.
If you look very closely at the image on the 7 or 12 inch, it looks quite blurry because I don't think they used a high res enough image for the actual album cover because it does look a little bit blurry.
But she looks very good on the cover. She looks beautiful. I love that striped top. It's very...
she looks stunning.
Yeah, it's one of her... Image-wise, it's a really good photographic image. It's a very good picture of it. But yes, the B-side, that was a lot... That gave me hope. And I played that more than I played the other side. I don't know if they were thinking about doing that as a double A side. It doesn't seem to have ever... I mean, they did a 12-inch version of it, so... I mean, they obviously expected it to be played in clubs somewhere, so clubs.
In Sweden, We Know the Meaning of Love became a top 10 hit in Sweden because they listed it in that country as the A-side to that single.
Ah.
So it went number 10 in Sweden.
Really?
Just there, yeah.
It's a great song. I mean, how would you describe it? Because it's a little bit different to...
It's more adult sounding, I think, compared to anything that else has been on the album, I thought. It's more of the song in lead up to The Rhythm of Love. I think the more kind of, it's a stepping stone from Enjoy Yourself to Rhythm of Love. I think it's a perfect kind of leading up to that. It's
very unusual because it isn't syrupy. It doesn't have any kind of syrupy lyrics. It's quite a hard song. And it's got kind of like it's not not that I'm underplaying the other singles. I mean, they're all such perky sing-along songs that they sound kind of simple in their makeup. But this one sounded a lot more kind of sophisticated. It sounded like there were almost musicians on it in some ways. More, like a proper band behind it. And it obviously had that trademark vocal stuttery. They press the stutter button. It was just a great song. I loved it. It's got a real kind of funky kind of groove to it that makes it sound completely different to, again, anything else she's done before. So it's another step toward another sound.
Yeah, it's much more mature than Just Want to Love You, which is the flip side of Hand on Your Heart as well. So it shows growth and maturity. Number 9 on the album, Heaven and Earth, which is the environmental song.
Yes, it really made me change about whenever I listened to it. I made sure I threw things in the dustbin, in the right recycling bin.
Did you?
No, of course not. Greta Thunberg would hate me. But she wasn't born then, so it's tough. I like the song. It was a nice song on the album. As I said, the B-side to the album was a mishmash of very unusual new sounds for Stockacre and Waterman. So this kind of, I always say take Tears Off My Pillow off the album because it doesn't seem to fit into the rest of the whole track listing. But Heaven and Earth sounds like it kind of is another experiment. When I say experimental, it sounds like like she's some kind of experimental musician, but it was experimenting with new sounds, new production, new kind of genre of music. So I liked it. It was nice. It was catchy.
Yeah, it is very catchy. The chorus is killer.
Yeah, it's actually lovely, and it kind of this B-side is a lot slower, isn't it? If you look at the if you look at all the songs, the B-side has got way more low key, and demonstrates her voice a lot better. But the songs are still strong. And it's a great song, I think.
How about the end track on the album, Enjoy Yourself? What are your thoughts?
Well, this is when we go back to being in party mode. So after the kind of lull of acoustic sounds and and jazz warblings. We've got you go back to disco, 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 and it's good. I mean, it's kind of very 80s Madonna, weirdly. I think people may have said it at the time that it sounded a little bit like
It's
Holiday
very, yeah.
and stuff like that. I can hear that.
This
I
is kind
remember.
of like her version of Express Yourself in a way.
Oh, do you think? I think it's more.
Yeah.
I think it's more Holiday than Express Yourself. If we're going to say that she's paid homage to Madonna, because it's got that kind of like mid '80s sound, which I think is quite bizarre. It's a good song. It's really perky. She sang it at the Anti tour, didn't she? And it went
Yes.
down the storm. So it's a it's a great song. I don't think it holds up as strongly as singles and Nothing to Lose. I think they're chunkier. They're better. They're constructed in a better way. I think Enjoy Yourself is a little bit tinny, but it's a great song. It is one of my. When I hear it, I get very excited. I feel very upbeat.
Yeah.
Great upbeat song.
Yeah, it's a banger for me. Every time it comes on the Alexa, Alexa Volume 7 kind of thing. I love it. So that brings us to the end of Enjoy Yourself. So Christian, you went to the Enjoy Yourself tour, didn't you?
I did. I went twice. I went to the first one. I went to and it was packed out. And then I think she had to do another London date. So she did another London date at Wembley.
Where
And
was
I was
it?
meant to go with
Was it both
Wembley
Wembley?
Arena.
Okay.
Yes. And so the second time I was meant to go with a friend, but then my friend didn't turn up and I had to sit on my own and I was very self-conscious about that. That's by the by. Anyway, the show was good. But the two things I remember from the second one is she sang Better the Devil You Know for the first time.
Ooh.
And she also sang Help, which is what she sang Help for a charity concert somewhere. And so she sang that and she was wearing this is the period where she was going through her headband phase. So she'd lost the hats and she was starting to wear the old headband. So for the Help concert, the Help.
It was like a John Lennon thing. It was like a John Lennon thing, yeah.
And she was wearing a black headband for that. So she sang those songs. It was good. So the thing, going to that show, that was the first time I heard her sing live, and she was doing it with a live band, and the live band obviously didn't make the songs sound as they didn't sound like the songs that were recorded. So they sounded a bit like a cabaret band to a degree. It didn't have that Stock Aitken Waterman pizzazz, but vocally she was very, very good, and she was just. Yeah, she's brilliant. I remember the two times I went, I kind of leaving, kind of buzzing because I just thought, oh my god, this is because every song was a slap you in the face like she was wearing those rubber gloves off of the back of Wouldn't Change a Thing. I felt like I'd just been whacked across the face because it was such a spectacle. The set wasn't as exciting as later tours. The songs. This is the thing about Kylie. Her songs are so good, and the early songs in particular, I think, are so strong. That there wasn't a moment where there was a lull. And even when she did sing "Tears on My Pillow," or the slower ones, it was you weren't bored because you kind of needed that moment to take a breath, which I think she probably did too. Otherwise, she'd collapse. It was I remember just coming away feeling so excited, and I was thrilled. And when I heard "Bet the Devil You Know," I just thought.
So what was the audience reaction to that? Were people like, because when you first hear an artist sing a new song, they probably stand there for a little bit like, I'm not quite sure, I don't really know this. But were they completely automatically straight off the bat dancing around?
Well, I think we may have already heard it at that point. I think she may have performed it on a show because this wasn't too long before it actually. Because the tour kind of came later, so the tour came roughly just in the weeks before. Actually, maybe you can remind me because I've got no memories of dates.
Oh, well, I don't know about this one.
Let me have a little thing. Let me just refer to my Bible that I have in front of me here.
Oh, the Bible.
And so the tour took place in February in Australia, and then it came over here.
February 1990.
Yes. So this is in the lead up to the release of Better the Devil You Know, which came out in April of that year. So that's why she sang Better the Devil You Know on that second show, because I think she may have just performed it on live or going live, I think it was, and she debuted that a few weeks before it was released. And so because she'd done it there, she did it on the second tour. So going to this particular show, which had the curtain halfway down the arena, so obviously they hadn't sold as many tickets for this one. We were given that exciting bonus of having this brand new track performed, and it sounded amazing because I remember hearing Better the Devil You Know on going live. It just sounded so. It was unlike. Well, this is for next time because that's we're jumping the gun. But that song was a particularly exciting moment because it promised the next chapter of Kylie's career.
Okay, so for our sort of diminutive collection, which songs would you place on the Ultimate Kylie album out of this?
We're only choosing two, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Right. My Smiley Kylie songs would be Hand on Your Heart. And
Yes,
it
that's
would
one of mine.
be,
So that's one.
yeah, and Nothing
Yep.
to Lose.
Ooh. I was going to go for I'm Over Dreaming Over You.
Ah, no, I'm going to go for Nothing to Lose.
Okay, well, we'll put a bonus track on there. Let's put the three on there.
Yeah, I've completely forgotten how we're doing this again because obviously since last time, last week it was like I can't remember what we said, but
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we had a drink. So are we just taking two of our own, and then so if we had two different ones, we put them all
Well,
on
we
the
can do
album.
what we want because this is our thing, right? So I reckon let's put three on there.
There you go. And if anyone wants to complain about it, they can complain by emailing what?
At the Smiley Kylie podcast at gmail.com. That is
Okay.
the Kylie Smiley podcast at gmail.com. Before we
Ooh.
go, Christian, I'm going to give you a little bit of a quiz. You need to name what song this lyric
Oh, hang
comes
on. We haven't
from.
we haven't done the no-nos.
Oh, damn.
Kylie Minogue. Don't you
Well, I
dare
think
leave.
we already know mine. I think that was My Secret Heart and Tears on My Pillow.
Well, Tears on My Pillow and Heaven and Earth. I'd lose those two if I had to. But that said, I've always maintained for the many, many years I've banged on about this album being one of the greatest pop albums, that it's a perfect album, bar that 2 minute and 8 second catastrophe that
2
is
minutes,
Tears on My
19
Pillow.
seconds.
Yeah. So
Catastrophe.
I would have preferred, if that song wasn't there, it would have been the perfect album.
But that song went to number one in the UK and 20 in
Yeah.
Australia. That only went to 20 in Australia. So that Kylie fatigue was well and truly in effect in
I never thought
January
I'd say the
1990.
Australians had taste, but they seem to have.
Okay, name this lyric and what song does this
Oh
come from?
no.
Anniversaries come and go. They're just another
Anniversary,
day.
come and go, just another day. See, that's my favourite bit of Telltale Signs. I love that.
Yes!
Her voice sounds absolutely heartfelt. It's beautiful. In fact, at one point, I used to rewind that section all the time just to listen to that bit because it's such a lovely bit and the kind of electric-y strings in the background.
Oh, well, thank you, Christian. And thanks, guys, for listening in. I'm going to put some photos, we're going to put some photos on the Instagram channel of Di's and Kylie's letters that we've spoken about today and the cover art that we've been speaking about, especially the rubber gloves. So if you want to recreate your own version of the Wouldn't Change a Thing album cover, the UK album cover, please do. We can do a little competition.
And also send us your pictures of you of you with Kylie, or you and any memorabilia you have that's kind of unusual. Or if you let us know what songs you like on Enjoy Yourself and what you also think of the songs on Rhythm of Love, which we'll be talking about next time.
Yes, next week, Rhythm of Love. Can't wait. All right, thanks, Christian. We'll speak to you soon.
With bells on. Bing, bing.
Thanks, bye.